Hello once again, everybody, to another episode of Poddywood, the show where we talk about movies, sometimes with the people who make movies. Right now, though, I am your co-host, Steve Hester, and joining me, as always, is...
What an energetic opening, Steve. Maybe you overshot just a little from where we were 5 minutes ago? Yes.
I don't know, it's the sugar.
Oh, bloody peanut M&Ms. They're not even a sponsor. That's
I know they're
shocking. You know,
Sponsor us, Mars.
Yes, sponsor us, anybody. We're happy to be sponsored. That'll be me, Andrew Roger Carson, also the co-host of this show. Apologies, I'm a little bit unshaven today. I'm a ruffled up mess, but this is what happens when you've got an hour to write the show because you've been busy all day.
Yes. Is he masturbating, were you?
Hey, you know, you've got to commit to that. And speaking of committing, Steve, let's talk about what's in the box from last week to open our show. And as you remember, It was 1991, not 2007, 1991's Alan Parker movie, The Commitments.
Yes, not Neil Jordan, as I said to you on the phone the other night.
The only Irish director you seem to know.
He's like, do you not know anybody else? No. It's Alan Parker. Right, fine. It's a bloke who did Kes. I don't know. Was that Alan Parker?
No.
No? See, I can't even get that right. What the fuck? I don't know.
No, it wasn't. Anyone can write in and tell him who it was, please. I just can't be arsed with it anymore. The Commitments. Directed by Alan Parker.
Yes. So The Commitments is a very, very well-known film, particularly, I'd say, more so over this side of the pond than over in the US. I remember this coming out when I was a kid, so 1991, I'd just be 11, heading into secondary school, and it's a story about a guy called Jimmy Rabbit who lives on a council estate in Dublin, which at the time seemed to be twinned with Mega City 1. The post-apocalypse came early, let's put it that way, according to the film. And
Salford.
No, come on. It was far nicer than Salford.
Very true.
They are going to get onto us one of these days.
We've already lost our Salford viewership.
I know. What's his name? Christopher Eccleston is there going, I'm not watching this shite again.
I'm an arsehole.
Do I look like an arsehole?
He gets the idea to put together a band. And while everyone else is doing the modern music at the time, he says, no, we're going to make a band that he's going to be playing soul music. This is going to be the music of the working man that reaches deep down into your groin, as well as into your hips.
Yes.
Try and get you moving. And so he collects together this ragtag group of people, including, I can't remember his first name, here we go, Glenn Hansard. I knew his surname was Hansard. Glenn Hansard, who was the star of Once.
Yes.
Which also got pulled out and was one of my favourites.
And potentially the same character.
Potentially, yeah, because you never know what his character's called in Once, do you?
No, there is fan theories out there that it is the same character.
But yeah, Glenn Hansard, he's in there. He was the first one that I kind of noticed. And yeah, it's about the trials and tribulations of putting this band together, and then the fallout from them all falling out, basically. So the movie is, well, it's a similar tale to what you've seen before, and it's still being made in movies today.
Well, sometimes.
Some movies, yeah. Some movies don't get picked up. They get overlooked because people don't know what it is that they've got.
Rumble-rama.
So, yeah. It's a story about entrepreneurship, and it has this wonderful soul music soundtrack, which I'm going to say one exception. I fucking hate Mustang Sally.
You mean this Mustang Sally?
Mustang
Yes, that Mustang Sally.
The best thing is you had to root for that clip.
Yes, I did. And I had to then insert it into the show and then listen to it on repeat while I lined up the clips so it all fit nicely. Yes, thank you very bloody much. Mustang Sally, my baby. Yeah, because this film came out, everyone and his wife started doing it at karaoke. No one could do it properly. It's a boring song. There is nothing interesting about it, and it's still being done today, usually with people trying to imitate Joe Cocker. I hate that song with absolute goddamn, with a Last Jedi kind of passion.
Starting strong today.
Yes. So yeah, the characters are all, I'd say they're all very, very one-dimensional. They each serve a purpose within the movie. And while there is some character growth to them, they don't really go through much. Like the lead singer, Deco, he starts off as an arsehole and ends up as an arsehole.
Do I look like an arsehole?
He doesn't really go through any character growth. I was expecting there to be a moment where he kind of realizes, oh, he's been obnoxious and he's falling out with the band. Maybe he should mend his ways. Doesn't happen. And I keep hitting the microphone as I'm waving my hands around.
Make sure you don't get electrocuted doing that.
I like this movie, though. I like the humor in it. I like some of the quips. Like, there's a brilliant line where Jimmy meets I want to say flute player, but it's not a flute. Trumpet player.
Trumpet player. The guy who looks like Peter Skarsgård.
Yes, that's it. Fortunately, isn't getting naked, unlike the Skarsgårds are wont to do. And he comes back into the garden and Colin Meaney. I don't know. Chief O'Brien is there and he's tending to his pigeons and goes,
"What did Evel Knievel want?
God sent him. What? God sent him.
The fucking Suzuki?"
Because he's riding this little Suzuki moped. That got me. I thought there was a cracking one-liner. And there are these lovely one-liners through the whole thing, but it's a movie that leans mostly on the music.
Yeah.
And apart from Mustang Goddamn Sally,
one of the greatest selling soundtracks of all time, by the way.
Yeah, I can well believe that because there's some absolute crackers in here.
Was that and The Bodyguard?
Yeah.
I'd say Commitment's one in the UK. Must have. Sally.
Oh, God, I hope so. Because if that goddamn... God.
Oh, we found the trigger for you. It's in the soundtracks, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, to kind of get you back on the Commitments track here, as we mentioned, Alan Parker, the director, who you should know from Midnight Express.
Yes.
But is no stranger to a music movie. He also did Evita a couple of years later with Madonna.
Oh, God, yes, he did, didn't he?
Yes. Also, he did the very controversial movie for the time, Mississippi Burning.
Which is one of my dad's favourites.
Yes, exactly. He was a fantastic director. He really was. But even he managed to fit in. Listen, John Ashton, we have a contender here. The Commitment, in a movie that runs 118 minutes long, has 169 fucks in it.
Yes, that is definitely one to work on the fuck meter.
Yes.
I think it's very reflective, though, because it's based on a Roddy Doyle book. And the main thing that I know about Roddy Doyle, and I know very little about him, is that it was mentioned in an episode of Father Ted. So as soon as I saw Roddy Doyle on screen, I just was thinking...
Have you been reading those Roddy Doyle books again, Dougal?
I have, yeah, Ted, you big gobshite.
Yes. That's part of the Roddy Doyle Barrytown trilogy. So this was the first one. There was another one called The Snapper. And there was the third one was called The Van. And all of them starred Colm Meaney as
Chief O'Brien.
No, as is it Jimmy Rabbit Sr.? Was his name Jimmy Rabbit?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's obsessed with Elvis.
Yeah, so Jimmy Rabbit Sr. he played the same character in all three, but different family members. So it's a bit strange. He must have got around a bit. This film also introduced us to The Cause.
Yes. Now, this was a fact that I knew before watching this. I wasn't sure exactly who it was that they played, but yeah, the entirety of The Cause show up at one point or another through the film.
Yes. Well, Jim Core was the band member in And, the wedding dance band. And the actual Cause sisters were among the auditionees when they came to the house. And I think his sister was Andrea Core. Also, obviously, we mentioned Glenn Hansard was in the movie as well. This is where he kind of rose to notoriety, and he became a really successful kind of singer from that, in Ireland especially. He's very well loved there. He clashed with Alan Parker quite a lot on this movie, though.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, there was a lot of arguments. Maybe he's ginger. I don't know. You know where he is. Yeah, it always happens.
You racialist.
I know. Sorry. I got a lot of ginger friends, and they can say they've at least got one. So there was a sequel. That's terrible.
Yeah, some of my best friends are ginger.
Justice for Gingers is coming out soon, I'm telling you. Gingestis. That's what it's going to be. It's Gingestis forever. Yeah. Hashtag. Yeah. There was originally going to be a sequel to this that was long 20th Century Fox for quite a number of years. I think as late as 1999, they were planning on doing a movie where all of the cast members reunited in New York. And that's pretty bizarre to think that every single one of those characters would just happen to be in New York at the same time. Yeah. That's probably why it didn't get going. The voice of the Commitments was Andrew Strong, 16 years old, yet looking 35.
He was not 16 when he did this film.
He was 16 years old.
But it looks like he was about 40 years old with 3 kids.
Yes.
He looked like he was working on his second heart attack.
I don't know. They must feed them something over in Ireland. They must start them on Guinness when they're like 8 years old.
It was the cakes that he was piling away in one of those scenes, yeah.
Yeah, and to have a voice like that deep at 16 years old. All you gotta do is try the audition for him was kind of funny because originally it was his dad who came to audition for The Commitments. And apparently Andrew Strong was waiting out in the hallway and they said, "Do you want to come in and audition?" He came in and pow. You know, suddenly he's the lead singer of The Commitments. This movie also is one of Quentin Tarantino's favourite movies.
Yeah, because what's the name? Who?
Bernie.
Oh, I can't. Bernie, that's it. She was in Pulp Fiction.
Yes, and she's also the first ever person to die in Star Wars. She was the pilot in the
she was the pilot of the... Yeah. She was in the Sherlock Holmes films recently, the first one.
I believe she was. Yeah.
Yeah, The Fortune Teller.
I had a feeling I thought she was in something like that. I haven't seen her in a lot, but she always kind of just crops up in little movies. And speaking of little movies that crop up, do you know how you know this is an Alan Parker movie?
No.
Because the film is full of references to Alan Parker movies. So,
okay.
As an example, when Jimmy Rabbit is selling stuff out of his bag to people, someone asks him if he's got Mississippi Burning.
Yeah, I noticed that.
There's a scene where one of the auditionees is singing Fame, which of course was directed by Alan Parker, the movie version.
Right.
And in the video store, all of the movies are like Midnight Express, Birdie, and all of them are posters, and on the wall and everything are all Alan Parker movies. It's nothing like shelling your past successes while you're making a movie.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but I am going to hit you with a nice little trivia.
Bit of history there, Ted.
Thank you, Dougal. There is a line. There is a line when Jimmy goes to the dole office and he says that he's struggling to get a job because he's living in a third world country. Technically, he is correct because the definition of a third world country was not to do with poverty or as a status as an emerging nation, as they're now called. It was to do with political alignment, and you were a third world nation if you weren't politically aligned with either the US or Russia.
Yep.
So in this case, Ireland was technically a third world country. So there you go.
I'm going to go on record here. I do love The Commitments.
It was a good film. I
It
just
is.
thought that the character, they didn't have as much growth as I would have liked. I think it might be because there were so many of them.
Yeah,
It's hard
it's
to
the
get through
problem
in such an amount of time.
It is the problem when you're working with a large ensemble cast. Fucking tell me about it. But the thing I love about it, it used real locations. Right, so a lot of it is real locations. Apart from one, do you know which one is not a real location?
With the house?
The house. The Rabbit household is not actually a location. That was done on a studio lot, I believe.
Right, because I was going to say, because most of the others, like the big halls and everything, they look... If there's only one, then most of those look like proper working halls. Okay.
Yeah.
I was right.
I love the score. I can agree with you on Mustang Sally, but I did actually own the soundtrack to this on CD. I love the fact that it rests on the power of unknowns.
Yeah.
So every actor was unknown. There are no star names. Colm Meaney was probably the only one, but back then he wasn't even a name. But he's like the only name realistically nowadays. I think it was brilliantly cast. I think it was brilliantly orchestrated. And yeah, it had a bit of an effect on me in the days. That's probably where a lot of, I used that Commitments kind of setup of bringing in a bunch of unknowns, just looking for opportunity into the whole Rumble Rama project, which unfortunately never came to be.
Yeah. And that's not just sour grapes as well. Totally, speaking as an independent person, read the script, and it still to this day, it was a fantastic script, and I'm so gutted that it never got made. But anyway, if we draw on that, then we're going to be drawing on it for the remainder of the evening as the alcohol starts flowing, and I'm a good girl, I am. Yeah. I enjoyed the film. I wasn't expecting it to. I wasn't expecting the tone to be quite as light, particularly as how drab and dour the setting of it is, and how kind of oppressive Dublin looked at the time. You had all the troubles between England and Ireland was still still got ongoing. So it was very, very easy to see that as a divided city, and it does look divided when you look at how palatial the hotel and everything is that shows up later when Wilson Pickett's involved. Not the real Wilson Pickett, but but no, I enjoyed the film. I thought it was a bit shallow in terms of character development, I should say. But no, I thought it had some pretty funny moments. There was definitely some actual laughs from me, which is rare. So yeah, I'd give this one a thumbs up.
Yeah. Bill Daly gives us a thumbs up as well when I told him we were covering it on the show.
Yeah.
But so yes, that is the Commitments for this week. Now it's on to some anniversaries.
We watch them again all of the time, or we get them on Prime for free. But we only know how old they are when we learn their anniversary.
Can you believe it? We're nearly in springtime. Nearly.
Oh, yes.
I think it's
The juice is flowing.
Yes, the juice is flowing. The movies that were released around Oscar season that they thought were going to completely tank are out of the door. And now it's time to get back to movies that people honestly thought, this is going to be a hit. Were they? Maybe. Maybe not. Depends on your definition of it. So I have pulled out 3 for this week.
Okay. Right.
3. Not
Hit
Jaws
me with
3.
the first one.
The first one.
No.
No.
That's 2 weeks on the trot now that we've mentioned Jaws 3. Can we not? There are children watching.
Well, there's probably children watching a lot of these movies and probably shouldn't. So let's start and go back 40 years, Steve. Now, this is kind of obscure, but I remember it. And 40 years ago, a movie by the name of Spring Break came out.
No.
No, well, basically, Spring Break wouldn't probably register on a lot of people's highlights of 1983. But it was a movie that was released, and it followed the National Lampoon's Animal House style.
Yeah, that kind of Caddyshack, that kind of feel. Lots of skits with a loose framework attached to it.
Yeah, and Losing It, the one with Tom Cruise and Jackie Earle Haley in it. But yes, Spring Breakers was directed by Sean S. Cunningham. Do you know who Sean S. Cunningham is?
Friday the 13th creator. Yeah.
He was the director of the original Friday the 13th, also known as a producer on Jason X. Awesome. The Friday the 13th remake in 2009 by Marcus Nispel. Awesome.
I do like that one, yeah.
I do. I watched it again recently. It's great. He's such an undervalued director in my mind.
Holds up really well.
Oh, it really does. And the remake of Last House on the Left, which one had to question really needed to be made, and two is just as unpleasant as the original one was. Spring Break is a very kind of questionable thing, really. I mean, you all go down to Fort Lauderdale for this huge college blowout, and that's what the movie is basically about. It's 4 students going on down for spring break to Fort Lauderdale, and Perry Lang is one of them, and he's a producer now, and he used to work at Warner Brothers as well in the office opposite Bill Daly. So big shout out to Perry Lang. He's on my Facebook, and I'm hoping that you do. I'm going to tag you in it so you do listen to it. Hi, Perry.
Yeah. Hi, Perry.
Hi, Perry. Spring Break, in doing a bit of research, that actually pours millions of dollars into the US economy, which is why Fort Lauderdale has really opened its doors for spring break.
Yeah,
because
it's huge.
A massive thing. We never really get it over here. I don't think we have anything even that remotely is like that.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because over here, when spring comes around, the weather is terrible.
As it is all the time. You get 1 week in summer, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky.
Well, this was released by Columbia Pictures in 1983. So obviously, it is full of Coca-Cola. And it really is. There is Coca-Cola everywhere in this movie. Because Coca-Cola, at the time, practically owned it, right? They owned Columbia Pictures.
They still do.
I thought Sony I don't know if it's bought that now.
Well, yes, they do. However, they still have a deal going with Coke. If you look at Sony movies, then they still pump out loads of stuff with Coke. I mean, there was a big thing about like Adam Sandler movies. They always seem to have Coke, and
so did the 1980s on every movie.
Yeah, but yeah, Coca-Cola, I should say, it's very, very
Yes.
prominent in Sony movies still. And Sony owned Columbia, so I think that still works.
Very true. But some interesting things about this. Jeff Garlin recently released as his role of the dad in The Goldbergs by way of death because of on-set behaviour. This was his actual first ever role. It's only a small role, kind of uncredited really, but you could spot him in there. And another strange thing is, when I checked the producers of this, the name Barbara DeFina shows up.
I don't know who that is.
Barbara DeFina was the producer of Goodfellas and movies with Martin Scorsese. And then she's starting off with this sleazy spring break sex comedy movie that was based on Sean S. Cunningham's youth, apparently, and his experiences of spring break. So he just decided to write this movie after Friday the 13th, which is weird.
I don't know. If you want to make a film, then there's 2 ways to go. It's either sex or violence. He'd already done the violence. So now we thought, let's throw some boobs in there.
Yeah. Another interesting thing in here is there's a female boxer played by Tammy Lynn Leppert. And if you see the box art cover, that is her body being modelled on it. Unfortunately, she disappeared suspiciously in 1983 and has never been found.
Oh.
So it's fearing that obviously after all this time she's obviously gone. But I think around the time the movie was being released, she was just suspiciously disappeared. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
You can look into that. It's a dour note to kind of end spring break on. The movie does not age well, by the way. especially if you're
Most
a
of
woman.
those films don't. They really don't. If you're a woman in those films, you are either a frigid ice queen or you are there to get your boobs out. That's it. There's no positive female role models in any of those kind of films at all.
It's still better than Slaughter High. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Slaughter High is the benchmark for me for a movie so terrible it's actually funny. Spring Break, it's just a movie that is there. Most people have probably forgotten about it. But because we're in spring, I thought, oh, well, it's a little bit of something for 40 years ago. And it was the #1 movie, so it actually did reach #1 for a week, Spring Break week. So they tied it in pretty well for a movie that was filmed the previous summer.
So they reached #1, but it was a bit of a #2.
Yeah, I'm not going to say too much. I might know people like Perry Lang, who was involved in that.
Hi, Perry.
I hope Perry comes on the show now and says, "You dickhead, that was the greatest thing I ever did." But
I got laid so much to working on that movie.
yes, you should have seen the coat. I had 5 cans.
I filled the cup. Yeah.
Yes, but that was 40 years ago this week.
I've no idea what I'm even saying tonight. I really don't.
Oh, you can tell it's a Tuesday night. Okay.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go back and do something you have seen. You must have seen this because it's right in your wheelhouse. 10 years ago this week, G.I. Joe Retaliation was released.
Is this the first one or the second one?
The second one.
Oh, I've not seen the second one. I've only seen the first one.
Really? Now,
Yeah.
that does surprise me. Did the first one kind of put you off?
I know it didn't really put me off, but it was just a great big pile of meh. Really, I wasn't. It had some nice moments in there, and I've got nothing particularly against Stephen Sommers, but he does tend to put out things which are very much style over substance, very much all kinds of big CG,
Yeah,
and I think
you can be guilty of that.
yeah, I mean, stuff like The Mummy was the perfect balance between the two, and then The Mummy Returns was just like, yeah, no, let's just stick a load of special effects in your face.
Okay.
And it's yeah.
Okay, well, let's sit on this. Stephen Sommers did not come back for the sequel. Instead, it was directed by John M. Chu. Now, if you've heard that name, you may know him as the director of Now You See Me Too, or Step Up to the Streets, or Justin Bieber, Never Say Never. Okay, so you see all them movies and then you see G.I. Joe. You may feel like, oh, God, but you know what? He's a very good stylistic director. And a lot of the cast didn't come back either. Channing Tatum did, but spoiler, he
It was only
dies
for about 10 minutes, wasn't it?
Yes, he dies within the first 10 minutes.
They're all dead.
Which is what a lot of people think the reshoots were all about. When they were saying, oh, this has been put back by something like 8-9 months. And he said it's got to be for reshoots. It wasn't. I'll get into that in a minute. I watched it again this week, and I watched the extended version.
Right.
Because that's how I prefer to see it. If it's an extended version, they tend to be better, like Lord of the Rings. Etc. So I thought I'd try it out and see how it goes. The first time I noticed that on a suitcase in this movie, there is an Umbrella Corporation logo on it.
From Resident Evil.
Yes.
Oh.
Only a couple kind of returned. Obviously, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson was the big guy leading it, taking over from Channing Tatum's role. Marlon Wayans didn't come back. Rachel Nichols didn't come back. Sienna Miller didn't come back as Baroness.
Oh, no!
Christopher Eccleston didn't come back as Destro.
Do I look like an arsehole?
We actually do really like you, Chris.
We do. But that line in Gone in 60 Seconds just gets me every time. It's absolutely brilliant.
I do. I really like Gone in 60 Seconds as well.
I know. Me too. I do. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Arnold Vosloo strangely did come back as Zartan, but his character is played by Jonathan Pryce. And Arnold Vosloo gets billing, but he's only in the movie in 2 pictures. So 2
How
actual
the hell
photographs.
does that work then?
Well, because he's Zartan, he's the master of disguise, isn't he? And he
okay.
uses nanotech technology to change his face, because obviously the Mission Impossible mask that you used to have on the toys wasn't good enough.
They were determined just to get rid of any kind of vestige that Stephen Sommers had brought into the franchise, weren't they?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, this one does actually play very strongly to the comic book and the animated series. So there is a lot of crossover storylines there that appeals to both sets of fans, which I do like. You know, that they have really done their homework on it. There was a curious link that I have found here with regards to Brendan Fraser and Dwayne Johnson.
Okay, because I know that Brendan Fraser was in the first one in a cameo. And
Yes.
he in his own kind of headcanon, he was saying he was one of Rick O'Connell's descendants.
He's in G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. And then Dwayne Johnson takes over in G.I. Joe Retaliation. The Mummy, Brendan Fraser as Rick Connell. The Mummy spun off with The Scorpion King, featuring Dwayne Johnson. And you
Just
think,
the first
that's kind of interesting. Oh, wait. Journey to the Center of the Earth, starring Brendan Fraser. Hang on a minute. Journey 2, starring Dwayne Johnson.
Dwayne Johnson.
You would
Oh
swear
my
Dwayne Johnson
God.
has it in for Brendan Fraser, which he probably doesn't. But it is kind of strange that is a recurring theme with anything that Brendan Fraser appears in. I'm waiting for the George of the Jungle reboot with Dwayne Johnson as George. That'd be interesting.
God, I can't wait to see how he's going to take on the whale too.
Very true. This movie also features Bruce Willis as the original G.I. Joe in a kind of bit of cameo. Now, Bruce Willis was not originally supposed to be that character. Do you know who was supposed to be in that role as the original G.I. Joe?
Stallone, maybe?
No. You're going to love this.
Oh, go on then.
Originally, it was supposed to be Sergeant Slaughter.
Oh, really? Or Sergeant
Yes.
Slammer,
Or
as he
Sergeant
became known
Slammer.
over here.
If you watch Action Force.
Full force!
God, incredibly bad dubbing. Apparently,
terrible.
what nixed it was a rights issue between Hasbro and Mattel that prevented that character from appearing in the movie as himself. G.I. Joe Retaliation is still banned in Pakistan.
What, because of negative representations of the country?
Yes. Yeah, as we mentioned before, yes, it was postponed for close to a year. The real reasons, a lot of people said, it's going through extensive reshoots. And that's why, because test audiences didn't like it. That was not the fact at all. Basically, there were two reasons for it. One of them was they were doing an extensive conversion into 3D.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one. So they filmed a lot of extra scenes to make it better for the 3D experience. Its original release date fell on the same week as Magic Mike, starring Channing Tatum.
Okay.
So they didn't want to release it on the same week.
Okay.
This movie is better than G.I. Joe, The Rise of Cobra. Much better.
Okay.
I remember seeing The Rise of Cobra and thought, okay, yeah, this is a G.I. Joe movie. It's not G.I. Joe, the movie, the animated movie, which is far superior to any live-action version of it, including Snake Eyes, a G.I. Joe tale. But G.I. Joe Retaliation, I think, is the closest they have gotten to getting it right, because Cobra Commander looks like Cobra Commander in this. It's pretty good. And it's not Joseph Gordon-Levitt, because he didn't come back either. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Cobra Commander.
I don't get it either.
Yeah. Well, apparently he couldn't come back and do the role because he was doing The Dark Knight Rises. So I think he probably chose the best one out of there. I love the music in this film. It's got a really good score. And the future of G.I. Joe is a bit uncertain because every single time they release a G.I. Joe movie, they're then talking about a reboot a week later. And this is kind of falling into that realm where they want to do a G.I. Joe and Transformers crossover. It's like the infamous Fast and the Furious and Jurassic World crossover that they talk about.
Can they just stop? Actually, a lot of those movies, like Fast and the Furious, just stop. I know that you're making a lot of money, but for God's sake, just stop.
But they won't.
Stop.
They won't because people will
Please,
still
stop.
don't see that shit. They really will. And there's people I know personally who've worked on those movies, and good for them. But it does get a bit ridiculous. But yes, G.I. Joe Retaliation, I actually like it. It's guilty pleasure for me. It's worth a watch if you haven't seen it. I think I've got that as a wild card in the box. So
Okay. Right. So in that case, what's the last one? Yes.
Okay, the last one. We haven't escaped this guy on our show yet.
Oh no, who is it?
20 years ago this week, Chris Rock starred in Head of State.
No, I haven't seen that one. No.
No. Okay, well,
No.
I don't know if you're lucky or just nonplussed. This was Chris Rock's, I believe, his directorial debut, as well as starring and producing and writing. And, geez, it's like me. It's like me trying to get a bloody series off the ground. Jesus.
Yeah.
But,
Ride the
Head of
theme
State.
tune, sing the theme tune.
yes, it might come to that yet. This was, some saw this as a Chris Rock vanity project, where it was, Chris Rock is the first black president, back in a time when there was never a black president. And
Yeah.
I'd love to say it was kind of an original idea, but the fact that right at the same time, Chris Tucker was making a very similar movie, apparently called Mr. President, that he was developing at the same time. Head of State got made first, and Chris Tucker's movie got shelved when Obama actually became president, because I think it then became redundant to do a comedy about a black man never being president.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
So Chris Tucker basically probably just went back and did Rush Hour 3.
Yeah. It's amazing. You have the first black president, then directly following it, the first orange president. So, I'm glad to see that we're breaking down those barriers.
Yes. I watched Head of State again this week for the first time, and I never really realised a bunch of things. One, the movie basically is just a Chris Rock stand-up routine made into a movie.
I asked my niece the other day, what's 4 plus 4? She said 44. Let me hear you say, that ain't right.
Because all of his jokes are there like it is a stand-up routine. It's like when they made that movie Maybe Baby that was based on Ben Elton's memoirs, and you saw so many of the jokes that he'd done in stand-up routines actually in a movie form.
Yeah. No. Oh, yeah. God, yes, I have. I've seen that. Oh,
Yeah. And, it was fine if you hadn't seen Ben Elton's stand-up concerts where he's talked about the exact things you are now seeing, like carrying a pot of sperm up your butt to keep it warm. And then it's in the movie exactly the way he says it during a stand-up routine.
He even did all those stand-up routines later on, because he disappeared from British screens for we're going off on a tangent. Disappeared off British screens for a while. Yes. After doing things like The Man from Auntie, because he was doing all kinds of musicals. And then when he came back, he was doing new tours and everything, but it was still the same old material.
Yes.
It was the same old jokes. Just it was shocking. So it wasn't any surprise to me when I did actually see Maybe a Baby that it was all the same recycled thing. It was all this shtick.
Well, it wasn't the only recycled thing that was in Head of State. There is a scene during the presidential debate where they basically verbatim repeat the Monty Python Argument Clinic sketch.
Really?
And yes, it is word for word.
Look, this isn't an argument. Yes, it is.
And, if it's an homage, that's fine.
That's fine, but that's a direct rip-off by the sounds of it.
Yeah, to me it was like a direct rip-off. But there were some interesting things in this movie also. I nearly got a huge smile on my face when at one scene in it, they're playing the Ready to Rumble boxing video game.
Okay.
That I absolutely used to love when it came out. That was among my first PlayStation 2 games. Actually, no, it was one of my first Dreamcast games back in the day. We're sneaking game references into the show again. What's going on? Also, something interesting in this. TNA Wrestling made its big screen debut in this movie, featuring Ron Killings, Jeff Jarrett, and a few others actually get to beat Chris Rock up in a wrestling ring. And I think that may be the only time TNA Wrestling has ever appeared in a movie, back when it was fresh and it was going to take over the WWE. We're still waiting.
Will Smith's watching that going, how the hell can I join TNA?
Do you want to know something incredibly special that actually takes this movie up into a higher echelon?
You're going to tell me anyway, so come on.
Yeah, I know. Well, I was going to tell you. I was so chuffed to realise that this was Elizabeth J. Carlisle's debut in a feature movie.
Was it?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Hello, Elizabeth. Hello.
Oh, we miss and love you, Elizabeth. We can't wait to see you again.
We're going to have to bring you on.
It's got to be the 100th. The 100th, I'm telling you.
113th. Yeah.
113th. We need a bit of red. We need a bit of red on our show. This film has some good things. I mean, Chris Rock is good in it. You know, he's very kind of comfortable on the screen. Bernie Mac is great in it. Lynn Whitfield is great in it. Robin Givens, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
She feels incredibly out of place in it.
Right.
Doesn't even look comfortable doing the movie. I don't know what it is. But yes, Head of State, it's all right. You know, in the current craze of Chris Rock at the moment, that is probably already starting to wane because people have talked about it constantly for a couple of weeks and now the Oscars is over with. You can rediscover it if you've not seen it. There's some nice little things in there. It easily passes its running time. And, it did some decent money at the time.
Okay. Well, fair enough. I mean, the comedies can be hit and miss, and if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. You know, I mean, some people will probably find it absolutely hilarious, but, you know, it's a matter of taste. You can't really judge comedies too harshly, really, because they are so subjective. But okay, then.
Yes.
Right.
And it's worth spotting for Elizabeth J. Carlisle.
Yeah. Hi, Elizabeth.
That's worth to watch any movie.
All right, so that was 3 lovely, lovely choices, none of which that I've seen this week. So sometimes it's a little bit hit and miss.
I was surprised by G.I. Joe. I thought you would have jumped on that.
Yeah, like I said, I saw the first one. It was just a big pile of meh, so I didn't really want to open that box one more time. And speaking of opening a box...
What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Such a good segue. I was tempted to show you the box, but then I thought, no, you know what? The mystery of not seeing the box, but you can see me at least open the papers.
I have never seen this box. I don't know if it's an actual cardboard box. I don't know if it's like a plastic Tupperware thing that he used to keep biscuits in. I don't know if it's just, I don't know, a bag that he's calling a box, or if it's a hat. Hello. Yeah, this is great. If I put it in that way round, I look like I'm in the 90s.
It is a box, but if I show the box, then that's it. There's no surprise. You know, everyone will then have a vision of what the box is. I'd rather them have their own things. Anyway, it's not important what the box looks like. It's what is in the box that counts. Anyway, explain the rules of what's in the box. We haven't done it for a while.
No, not since last week. Well, I'm going to be gabbling this to you. My lovely, lovely co-host is going to be pulling out the name of a movie which he's certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes out of the... Oh, he's got one there. Out of the box. Now, if I have seen it, then he's just going to keep on pulling out names of movies until... If I have seen it, then he's just going to keep pulling out names of movies until... Shut your face!
Getting there. Listen to how tense this music is getting while we're waiting.
If I have seen it, then he's going to keep pulling out names of movies until we find one that I haven't seen, and then I'm going to go away and watch it before we record the next episode, and then that's what forms the review at the start of this show. Yay!
And you're all there saying, was that it? Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Steve.
Yes.
Are you ready?
I feel like we should have the lights going down or something.
No. Not for this, because I'm sure, 100% sure you've seen it.
Okay.
Steve, the first one out of the box. Adam's Family Values.
Yes. I went to the cinema to see that.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Let's get number 2 from the box. We've got just one, thank you. Jesus. Right, okay. It's getting tense. we're going for number 2. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, number 2. Ooh, actually, this has been spoken about quite a lot online.
Okay.
From 1998.
All right.
Okay. Dark City.
That's it. No. Alex
Proyas.
What is it? Proyas?
Prius?
Prius.
I thought it was Alex Proyas.
I'm not sure. All I know is that he
Alex,
directed the
I'm
Crow.
tagging you in this episode and let us know.
Yes. And you can
But,
slap me for being such a Philistine. But no, I haven't seen Dark City.
oh, you know what? You're going to love this because I know how much you love film noir and you love science fiction.
Yeah.
And you love Richard O'Brien. So I think you're going to really enjoy this movie. I can't believe you've not seen it. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's always been one of those movies which has been lurking on the periphery of my my little circle of enjoyment. And I know that it's easy now, careful, Tiger. And I know that it's got some hints to do with like the view of the world, which is similar to what The Matrix did a couple of years later. So yeah, let's give this a whirl. I do remember it coming out when it was in college, though, and there being a fair bit of buzz about it. So,
well, realistically, now you've got to think: are you going to watch the original theatrical version or the director's cut?
I'm going to try and get hold of the director's cut.
Good, very good choice. Where basically they just kind of Blade Runner it. They just take the voiceover out that is not needed. It's great. And if you people have not seen it, watch it also, and then join us next week as we discuss it and find out a little history about it and find out what Steve thought about Dark City.
Yes, and if you want to get involved in the conversation, then you just need to look down here to the bottom corner, right where I'm pointing, and that gives you all the links to all our socials. We're on facebook.com/Poddywood. We're on Twitter @Poddywood. You can reach us on LinkedIn, or you can catch us on Reddit, which is r/Poddywood. Yes, we're there.
Yes. If you sign up to our Patreon, you can listen to these audio episodes just before the video episode gets released. So if you're going to the gym or something and you just want to listen to an audio episode, you can get it through our Patreon.
Yep.
And
price of a cup of coffee for a month's entertainment early.
Yeah.
What can you want?
Exactly. Yeah. We also, if you are interested in sponsoring Poddywood, we are open to sponsorships, but the more important thing for us all is subscribers. We want some subscribers. Just follow us. Just follow us. You get alerted when a new episode goes up. You can watch it straight away and tell all your friends the spoilers of what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah,
do it. I think that's what we want. That's what we want.
Yes.
We need you people. Come on. Help us help you.
Yeah, click the button, get involved in the conversation. For right now, though, it is a goodbye from me.
And I guess I've got to leave as well, because otherwise I'm going to be all on my own.
Obama's elf.
With Mustang Sally.
Ah!